Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Today in our unit on the United States geography, we're going to look at some of our country's major landmarks. But we're not going to look at all of them. We're just going to look at a few. And in this, we're just going to look at some that are man-made landmarks in the United States. So I've picked out some that are representative of some of our iconic landmarks of our country that are man-made. Let's start with this one, Statue of Liberty. One of those icons that we think of with the United States is the Statue of Liberty, and it's located in New York City in the state of New York. And the Statue of Liberty was a gift from France, and it ended up being built in 1886. And so it sits right outside of Manhattan, New York, in the harbor between where New York is and New Jersey. But Statue of Liberty is one of those iconic items that we think of when we think of landmarks of our country. Now, keeping in that same city, I want to take us to one of the busiest pedestrian areas, not just in the United States, but in the whole world, and that's Times Square. So, right in the middle of Manhattan Island, you have this large urban area that is just full of people. There's a lot to do there. Broadway is located in this area. So it is one of the busiest places in the world. Another man-made landmark that we think of in the United States is Mount Rushmore. Mount Rushmore is located in the state of South Dakota. And what happened was they carved these presidential figures into the side of the Black Hills. And the four presidents that are on it are George Washington, Abraham Lincoln, Thomas Jefferson, and Theodore Roosevelt. Now what's interesting is, originally, they were going to sculpt a lot of their body as well. And you can see George Washington sort of started to take shape with his lapels on his jacket. But they abandoned that and then instead just finished the heads of those four presidents. Another iconic symbol in our capital city of Washington, D.C. is the Washington Monument. So the Washington Monument stands 555 feet tall. It's in the middle of our National Mall area, a green strip, in the middle of Washington, D.C. And it was built to commemorate our first president under the U.S. Constitution, George Washington. We have the Gateway Arch. Two of my favorite historical people are Lewis and Clark. Lewis and Clark were sent to explore the newly purchased Louisiana Territory to see if there was an all-water route that they could take to the Pacific Ocean. Well, they started in St. Louis, Missouri, officially, on that expedition. So this gateway to the arch represents our push and the expansion westward as a country. This is the biggest man-made arch that we have. It's located in St. Louis, Missouri, 630 feet tall. Another man-made landmark, actually quite an engineering feat, is the Hoover Dam. The Hoover Dam's located along the Colorado River, and it's between Arizona and Nevada, and so it's actually flooded a lot of what is canyon area, and it's created a very large reservoir called Lake Mead. And this dam, 726 feet high, so the dam's actually higher than the St. Louis Arch was as well. Another icon, the Golden Gate Bridge. In fact, when you think of the city of San Francisco in California, you probably think of this bridge as that icon that represents that city the best. 1.7 miles long total is the distance of that bridge crossing over the bay. In Seattle, you have this feature, a unique one. Built for the World's Fair back in 1962. World's Fair, you always tried to build some sort of unique feature. The Eiffel Tower in Paris was built because of the World's Fair. But it's this 518-foot high observation tower. Also has a revolving restaurant at the top of it. Our last one that I have on here is the Biltmore Estate. This one fascinates me. I've had the privilege of touring through the Biltmore Estate. It is the largest privately owned house in the United States. And it's located in Asheville, North Carolina. Built by George Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt's controlled a lot of the railroad business in the mid to late 1800s. Very wealthy people. Now, the Biltmore Estate consists of about 250 rooms, 35 of which are bedrooms, 43 of which are bathrooms. So let's just take a little closer look at the Biltmore Estate.
During America's Gilded Age, Asheville was also a popular getaway spot for America's richest industrialists, including the Edisons, Rockefellers, and Vanderbilts, some of whom built country homes here. One of them is the largest private house in the United States. The Biltmore Estate was constructed in the 1890s by 26-year-old George Washington Vanderbilt, grandson of Cornelius Vanderbilt, the famous New York Railroad tycoon. With virtually unlimited resources at his disposal, Vanderbilt's French Renaissance-style estate took more than 6 years to build. And was such a massive undertaking, it required its own brick-making factory and a private railway for delivering materials. The finished 250-room mansion has 34 bedrooms and 43 bathrooms. When it came to designing the Biltmore's grounds, George Vanderbilt hired the best of the best, Frederick Olmsted, the landscape architect who created New York's Central Park. Olmsted designed formal gardens close to the house, but he also regenerated forest areas around the estate by transplanting trees and encouraging new growth. It was one of the country's very first forest conservation projects. During the Great Depression, Asheville's tourist trade was in decline, so the Vanderbilt family agreed to open the Biltmore for public tours. Today, the estate is visited by more than 1 million people a year.
All right, so that brings us to the end of this section. You're actually going to go ahead today and you're going to watch part 2 of landmarks in the United States, but you're going to look at natural landmarks. So your 2 assignments today are going to be to watch this Edpuzzle video as well as the next Edpuzzle video. So go ahead to that next Edpuzzle video right now.